Welcome back. My name is Steve, and this is episode 2 of Ziracuny STARCRAFT boat rebuild. If you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button below. This is going to be a multi-video series on removing and replacing the fiberglass keel and core material on a 1988 STARCRAFT 221 Offshore Bluewater. Yeah, so Ziracuny, that is the name of my hull, and my daughter come up with a name for me. She used to call me Ziracuny. Ziracuny is monster of the sea. I've spent much of my life on boats and around boats ever since I was a child, and that's the name of my channel. So in the last episode, we cut out plywood under the fuel tank. We cut out, that exposed the keel, then we cut out the keel, and we had to cut out a forward bulkhead to access. In this episode, we're going to be grinding down the hull, smoothing it out, and prepping the hull for epoxy layup of new plywood keel. Grinding fiberglass should really be done outdoors in a ventilated area. This guy right here can dust your entire house. It does a great job of cutting fiberglass down, but man, does it make the dust. In our case here, we're located in the north. It's winter, so we did get the grinding done in my shop. My shop is not attached to a home, and I will say we completely bombed the shop. So warning, warning, warning. Do not do any grinding in a garage attached to a house. You will bomb the house in fiberglass dust. Real quick on safety gear for this project, you're going to want some goggles. I use goggles because of the we're running a grinder, and I'm using a 16 grit disc. These guys, you get a little, try to get the most out of them. They wear down and they will split apart. If you catch a nail or something like that, just rips them up and throws stuff all over the place. So wear goggles. I have glasses, safety glasses, wear goggles. You're going to need a respirator, and believe me, you need to wear this respirator all the time. So this is a 3M, I think it's a 6000 series, and I'm using a P100 mask on that, 3M model 2091. I have links to that down below. I have links to the mask down below. And this cartridge here is rated at 99.97% efficient to 0.3 microns, so it's similar to like a HEPA quality filter. I notice, in the nose, when I take it out, I see some white traces on my face, so maybe I didn't have a great seal on it. When you buy a mask, they come in like medium and large sizes. Pick the medium. About 80% of the population wears a medium. These guys do work. The other thing is you're going to need to be wearing some gloves. Enough of that said. Next we'll go on to the tools. Tools for this project. Yeah, we still have some very rough matte roving flaps and edges. So I'll be cutting these out with a 4.5 inch, 11.4 centimeter angle grinder with a metal cutting disc. Next. Just wanted to go over my sanding grinder. So I'm using a 4.5 inch, 5 inch, and 6 inch diameter grinder. Comes with guards for each size grinding wheel, and comes with a couple grinding wheels. Don't use the grinding wheels. I'm using metal cutting discs for cutting fiberglass. And then for sanding fiberglass, I'm using the 36 grit flapper wheel. That's been on there now for a little bit. They last a pretty decent amount of time. However, talking with one of my fiberglass guru buddies, and he recommended that I go to a 16 grit disc. That's what I'm shifting over to right now. That's a disc. I buy a 25 pack. They're not easy to find. I have a link down in the bottom of this page for that, as well as a link for the 4.5 inch flap disc. This is a 5-inch disc. I had to buy a backer wheel, a backer plate for it. This is all going to screw up onto the grinder. I have a tool there to remove that disc. So we'll see how this new grinding wheel works out. I have a lot of cleanup work to do in there before I can start setting in my new keel and stringers. Okay, now let's get started. So, woohoo! The keel, stringers, and bulkheads are now cut out to the midship cuddy cabin. I'll be grinding the hull smooth for the new keel and stringer layup that will be using epoxy and 1700 biaxial cloth. All these heavy fiberglass edges need additional cutting. I'm magnifying here. I'll be using a metal cutting disc, then grinding them smooth with a 16 grit sanding disc. I'll be cutting and grinding out this black painted area under the engine compartment and all these edges. Previously, I started grinding the sides with a 36 grit flapper wheel that wasn't doing the job. I needed something more aggressive, so I'll be using a 16 grit disc to smooth this down. That surface there is way too rough for chop strand or biaxial cloth. We don't want air pockets forming over these bumps. I need to grind these down so the glass mat lies flat on the hull surface. So I started out cutting some of the heavy roving that was like flapped up above the hull, and I'm using a angle grinder with a 4.5 inch metal cutting disc. This is working pretty well. I have my vacuum cleaner in position to pick up a lot of the dust. You're gonna waste your sanding disc grinding that really heavy stuff down. Just cut through it. Just be careful not to cut through your hull. I started using the 24 grit sanding discs. They're working great. You're probably going to need the whole 24 pack for this job. It's hard to comprehend from the video how much time is put into this grinding. By the end of the project, I'll have 40 to 50 hours of grinding. Okay, so I have it pretty much ground down and cleaned up. We're looking at the stern of the boat right here, and the engine compartment area. All of the roving mat has been ground down where stringers are going in, smoothed out, and a port stringer that was still viable, so I did not remove it. There's no roving over the inboard side. Outboard side still has roving on it, and I'll be resetting that and retabbing that. I also made a patch for the back end to reconnect that to the transom. Just to give you an idea how I've cleaned it up, you can sort of see how smoothed out it is. That's what I'm going to work with. We were working with a very rough roving texture there, and that's been all ground out, roughed up. See, now I'm looking at the bow of the boat. Also, you can see how that's been cleaned up. The center portion here is going to have a big piece of plywood over, and it gets connected in this region right here and over here. So other than the keel coming down the middle there, that's all cleaned up to allow for good adhesion. Then I have cleaned it up on the sides. I have a starboard stringer going in down here, and then the deck will be down that line right there, and it's been cleaned up above that to connect the deck to the side of the hull. Where these two lines are, that's a line for my starboard stringer. This is a line for a more inboard stringer. And in transom, that's all been renewed. So I'm going to be using acetone, and I'm going to be wiping the hull down, get rid of any residual fiberglass dust, and then I'll be wiping it up with a cloth there. You got to watch how much vapor you get in the air here. You should probably wear a respirator. I'm not at the moment, but maybe shifting over to a respirator. I want to get started on this. Stuff evaporates pretty darn quick, as you can see. So it goes on wet and it evaporates very quick. Acetone has a flammability level, so I wouldn't be running any flame next to it. Yeah, so you can see acetone does a job on nitrile gloves, so it's not a good solution for, these gloves are not a good solution for working with acetone. I had to show you this preview of an upcoming video showing the final grinding and how smooth I really got it. I'll explain the keel design and layup in upcoming videos. Just wanted you to see this so you see the finished product. Okay, we're going to wrap it up on grinding and hull prep. Hope you learned something on grinding the hull and how smooth I got it. Recap on the grinding is we use 16 grit sanding discs. They work great. I ground all the areas smooth where the new glass is going to be laid up, and I think I did a pretty good job on that. May have to do a little bit more touch-up work, but we're pretty close. Grinding is a very dusty job. Recommend you do it outdoors. Lessons learned: don't use nitrile gloves when working with acetone. They don't pass the 4-minute disintegration test. You're going to want to use latex gloves or butyl rubber gloves. I'll be offline the next couple days. I understand we got a blizzard coming in here tonight. It's like 41 degrees right now and it's supposed to be 60-mile-an-hour winds tomorrow and 10 below zero. Yikes! Okay, so my next video, we're going to be going over the replacement design of the keel and how I'm going to connect the new keel with the stub out piece that's left up in the bow of the boat. We'll also discuss the Epoxy and 1700 layup schedule. Look forward to seeing you again.